Hey everyone, it's Tripl-L. How you doing? So, this is a special video I made because of circumstances that happened on a stream. It's me picking NFL stuff. I know nothing about NFL. So, we're going to go into the video. It's going to be the whole thing of how this went down and how I made my picks. If I'm right in any which way, then I deserve a lot of props. But yeah, special credit to Prower because he's the one explaining everything to me. I really learned that Prower knows what he's talking about. But yeah, let's get into the video. And to everyone that watches the streams, hey, I hope you're having a good day. I had a good day.
And so yeah, each divisional winner makes the playoffs automatically. So that's makes up the four top seeds of each conference, and then the remaining three playoff teams are the wildcard teams, in which they're the teams from each three teams with the best records from each conference that failed to win their division.
Okay.
Conferences are named the American Football Conference, otherwise known as the AFC, and the other one is known as the National Football Conference, otherwise known as the NFC. And they're like that primarily because the league used to be two different football leagues that merged in the 60s that were known as the NFL and the AFL. That would go on an entirely different tangent. It's just a short explanation, but
Thank God he did it. But it was quite a lot.
all right. So to simplify it, we'll run through every division. It will mention the teams,
Do note how confused I was. This was real confusion.
and you can just ask me whatever you want about them in order to make it easier to predict. However, I will not tell you my picks or who I think will be the playoff teams.
Is there like a website where I can see like a listing of them? Like, it's like graphically presented? Honestly, I didn't think that would be such a giant problem, but like Prower seemed really offended and I asked for a visual aid. I mean, like, yeah, he was a great explainer, but like, visuals just kind of help slightly, I don't feel I was in the wrong for asking.
Yeah, I could also just go ahead and tell you as I go through. Like, I also could tell you, like, how they did last season, key additions that they had, as well as losses. And when I say key additions, I'm talking like players and personnel, like coaching and whatnot.
At this moment, I realized that Prower just really liked talking about football. And that's pretty cool. Like, again, he's very knowledgeable about this. He should really do a football podcast. I think he could do it. I don't want to be in it, though, Prower, so no ideas here. No ideas.
Let's start off with the AFC North.
If I look like I'm in pain, I was. It's very smoky where I live, and I have just bad headaches. So just ignore it. Like, heck, I'm actually even worse than I was on the day we recorded this. Yeah, the pain is not coming from football, although maybe it should have.
And with that, I know you're probably going to already look at it, but I'm going to say the teams anyway.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Among those teams, the Bengals won the division last year, and they made it to the Super Bowl, while the Steelers made it to the playoffs as a wild card team.
Okay, what did the Baltimore Ravens do? Okay, look, I'm pretty basic, all right? I have like a pretty clear methodology when it came to my picks. I'm not going to say that I watched The Blind Side and that factored into my subsequent decisions, but I did think The Blind Side was a cool movie.
The Ravens were pretty decent, but let me look at their actual technical record. Yeah, they did pretty decently, but due to 1,000 different players they went 8-9. 1,000 different players went down for numerous amount of times, especially at the running back position, and they just were not able to stay healthy enough to be competitive enough in several games. But yeah, 8-9 was pretty decent for how bad the roster was beaten up. The Bengals went 10-7 and made us the fourth bottom seed out of the divisional winners. And their way to make it to the Super Bowl was a surprise to nearly everyone, as they were expected just to likely be first round outs. They're a team that they never won a Super Bowl. They've been to only three, with most recent one being last year, and the previous two were in the 80s and 90s. And they had the longest ongoing playoff win drought out of all teams, which was over 20 years since they last won a playoff game. The divisional round matchup against the Titans, they allowed their quarterback to get sacked 8 times and still managed to win.
At this moment, I couldn't really tell if Prower was upset about that. Like, I'm not really sure what was the takeaway there. He just sounded so forceful with the 8 times.
The Bengals, they, for the most part, got stronger offseason. They lost tight end C.J. Oswald, but gained additional players on the offensive line. The Steelers, their over 10 year starter at quarterback Ben Roethlisberger retired, and now they have Mitchell Trubisky as the bridge quarterback starting for them. The Browns, in a very controversial move, traded away their starting quarterback Baker Mayfield for pennies and signed a man known as Deshaun Watson, known as a really great quarterback on the field, the highest guaranteed money in NFL history on his deal. But what he did, the reason he was available to take, you'll probably have to look up this on YouTube. It might not do well if I say the words.
Okay, no worries. I hadn't realized it just yet, but football is pretty dirty, and there was a lot of drama going into it, and man, did I step into it. I didn't even know. As it turns out, Prower would also be a good football gossip mag. You know, the Ravens is one of the few teams that I knew of before coming into this, so I'm going to pick the Ravens.
Okay. Well, right now,
If I pick a winner, can I pick the same thing as a wild card? No.
Oh yeah, you could pick a wild card right now.
Yeah, it's because I feel like the Ravens, if they don't win, they would be the wild card.
Okay, so just bear in mind that there's only 3 in each conference.
Oh, okay. Well, I still like the Ravens. I am biased for Ravens. I was so biased. I don't think Prower actually realized what my selection criteria was, even though I think I said it a few times in the video. That's just how passionate he is, though.
Okay, so now since we did the North, let's move on to the South.
Okay.
Which has
Texans, Titans, Colts, and Jaguars?
Yes.
Okay. So not the Titans. I'm not going to pick the Titans because of what you mentioned about the Bengals.
Yeah, the Titans were the #1 seed in the AFC last year.
Okay.
And they also broke the record for having most amount of different players start a game for them in NFL history when it comes to the single season, because they had multiple different players that were getting injured, not swap out, and all sorts of stuff. But they managed again make it the #1 seed. Still lost in the first playoff game they played against the Bengals. But yeah, when it comes down to the AFC South historically has not been a good division. Like the Colts have a lot of good history, but otherwise, the Texans and Jaguars are 2 of the 4 teams who've never gone to a Super Bowl.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah, the Texans are the youngest NFL team. They are, I believe, they're in their 24th season, and they've never made it to an AFC Championship game, which that's the game that a team in the AFC conference would need to win in order to go to the Super Bowl. They've not even got to that step in history.
Okay, you know what? I want to root for the underdogs here. I feel like they got it. I feel like they can do it.
I strongly advise you against it.
Nah, like underdogging. I feel like they're gonna do it because, like, I don't know. I feel like the Texans should be a bit stronger here.
Oh, good lord. Okay.
I'm going with my heart.
Never underestimate the power of heart.
Okay, let's move on to the AFC East. And has the Buffalo Bills, New England Patriots, New York Jets, and the Miami Dolphins.
I've heard so many things about the Miami Dolphins.
Let's just recall I also like animals.
Yeah, the Dolphins are a team that historically they're only team in NFL history that had the perfect season and won it in a Super Bowl. That was back in '72 when there was only 14 games in the regular season. There's 17 now, but they're a team that hasn't been seen as a good team since the '90s when they had Dan Marino. They've had a lot of different issues.
Oh.
Like especially recent years, they fired a coach who was considered going up in the ranks as one of the better coaches in the league, named Brian Flores. And he immediately sued the team and the NFL, claiming that the owner of the team was fired him for not tanking, which is the term in sports in which that teams may be openly trying to lose in order to get better draft picks.
Again, so much drama in NFL. Like, holy, I can see why people follow it.
The Super Bowl favorites are in the division and in the Buffalo Bills. But
Oh, the Buffalo Bills are favorites?
yeah, they're considered the favorites by Vegas.
Oh.
And the funny thing was, I saw the NFL did a poll on YouTube in which they were like, "Oh, who's going to win the AFC East?" There was over 116,000 votes, and 86% went to the Bills.
Shit, all right.
So you take that as you will. So you're going to go with the Bills or stick with the Patriots?
Oh, man. I gotta actually think about that. I mean, like, if Vegas is going in that direction, like, shit. What's going on with the Jets? Is the Jets, like, what are they doing?
Oh, the Jets are always the team that finds AIDS throughout. The last time they've been to Super Bowl was Super Bowl 3. And they're nice. They're about to get, I believe, Super Bowl 54 now. And right now they have a bunch of young and inexperienced players. A couple of them are getting hurt, including their starting quarterback who did not have a good rookie season last year. So they're putting out Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback for at least the first 4 weeks. And Joe Flacco is an old veteran player that only had like 1 or 2 good years. Those are only during the playoff runs. It's not going to be pretty. They're always among the bottom feeders.
All right. Knowing now the thing about the Bills, I'll switch over to the Bills here.
Okay. And now let's discuss the final division of the AFC West, which has the Las Vegas Raiders, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Los Angeles Chargers, and the Denver Broncos. When it comes to this division, it's probably the division that most people are looking at coming into this division because The Chiefs, for the past couple years, have been considered one of the top tier teams. They made it to the AFC Championship game for the past 3 years in a row. And the other three teams in the division made several different moves, acquiring different players in order to try to catch up to them. And now a lot of people are really excited to see how this division goes.
Okay. Well, I see the Raiders, and the Raiders, again, one of the teams I recognize. I actually have Raiders merchandise. Like, I ended up with it when I was a kid.
This might have actually been the coolest segment of this entire thing, because this was actually legitimately something I would never have ever have figured out by myself.
Yeah, the Raiders, specifically when Al Davis, previous owner of the team, before he died, for many years, he tried to make the Raiders a brand worldwide. He would do all sorts of different, like he made sure that they actually did play games in like Mexico, and London, and whatnot. He was just trying to make the Raiders the team everyone knows and loves.
That's really cool. Like, I still have that merchandise. Like, we got it. Like, I think I got it in Cuba even. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
I would want to stick with the Raiders out of nostalgia.
Yeah, when it comes to
Is that a bad idea?
the Raiders, they have a new head coach because last year, early on in the season, their head coach Jay Gruden, a different team was being investigated. How did that get fish? But it was of friends. They were looking for stuff. They found emails scat as which of the
Prower, I think you're being
Okay.
censored. Like, I can't hear you at all. Your voice is so distorted.
Basically, last year the Raiders head coach.
Wait, you sound so clear. I don't think you should talk about the Raiders anymore. I think if you start talking about the Raiders' problems, I think you're going to be censored in real time here. You sound so clear when you're not talking about the Raiders' problems.
I think it was just a second there, so I think we should still try to get to it.
Okay.
And yeah, the Raiders head coach resigned because of the emails they had between that guy that was being investigated. And she said several sexist things, homophobic things, and some racist things. Perfect trifecta.
Christ,
And
man, like, why are all the teams I'm aware of just degenerate? Okay.
it was the head coach. The GM was also fired because he didn't make great picks. Like several of his picks in the drafts were going to go because they weren't that great. So one of them, a wide receiver named Henry Ruggs, was pretty good until during the season he got in a DUI. He was going over 100 in a residential area, and that was the death of a 24-year-old dog that they were trapped in the car he wrecked it to, and it went aflame. They died from fire.
Holy shit.
And then another player that Miss GM drafted, he was cut from the team. And according to wasn't that great to begin with, for threatening to use a gun to kill a particular commenter that was on how terrible he was. And I forget which site he posted the video on. Like he was waving around guns, like, oh, he can wait to use it to get that one guy.
All right, this is pretty dark. All right. I need to, like, this is just a whole lot of bad juju.
Yeah, the Raiders somehow still made the playoffs though.
Oh.
Yeah, they made it as the wild card and lost in the first round to the Bengals.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
And
Maybe the Chiefs. Maybe I should go in that direction with the Chiefs.
okay, well, that's right. Not sure they lost their starting, their number one wide receiver. They wanted a new deal, and he thought he wasn't getting it, so they traded him to the Dolphins.
All right, yeah, I'll go with the Chiefs. It looks like this could be a nice upset.
Well, they've won the division for like the past 5 years, so I don't think it would be an upset.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, I'll stick with them.
Okay, so who do you think are going to be the 3 wild cards in the AFC?
Okay, so, do people get wild cards 2 years in a row?
Wild cards 2 years ahead. They can often make wild cards. It's more common for a wild card team to either win the division the next year or miss the playoffs.
Oh, okay.
And then be a wild card 2 years in a row, but it's possible.
It's possible.
Not.
And then I think it'd be funny if the Dolphins end up going wild card.
There are some commenters that analysts do believe they are going to be a wild card, but I don't see it.
Okay, fair enough. And then as for other wild cards, so that's one wild card there. Can 2 wild cards come from the same division?
Yes, since there's 3 wild cards, all of 4 teams from a division can make the playoffs. It would be really difficult, mind you, but it's possible. It's difficult primarily because of the fact that each team, when it comes to in divisions, they face each other twice a year, and that makes up 6 games out of their 17, in which one is home and one is at the opposing divisions.
Okay. We got the Dolphins. Let's put the Texans in as a wild card.
If you're having Texans in as a wild card, who's winning the South?
Oh, sorry. I was still thinking about the Texans. Sorry. Jaguars. Jaguars are wild
Okay.
card. And Bengals.
Why? Why the Jaguars?
I don't know. Kind of like that it's an animal.
I like animals.
They're probably going to be considered the worst team.
Yeah.
They've had the number 1 pick overall in the draft the past 2 years in a row. You get the number 1 pick, and you get the higher pick you are is based on your record for the season. They've been the worst team for the past 2 years in a row.
Yeah, I'm really good at picking the worst here.
Last offseason they hired a college football coach to be their head coach in Urban Meyer, and they fired him not even after the season because he was a terrible leader. In press conferences after many of their losses, he was joining his assistants that he hired and picked, claiming that they were losers. He was, after one loss, instead of going with the team on the flight back home, he actually ended up going to a bar, and he was on video having a stripper dance on him, just do a team stance on him while he's pointing the finger where he shouldn't. And bear in mind, he's a married man. And also, there was a former kicker on the team that
NFL is so degenerate. Like, holy.
who ended up getting cut by the Jaguars, like I believe in the preseason, that claimed during a practice Urban ran up and kicked him for
Gotcha.
missing a field goal attempt. And due to him not liking that, that's the reason why they cut him according to him.
Gotcha. Then wild cards, I will go Dolphins, Bengals, and Broncos.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Okay, now moving on to the NFC side, we have the Green Bay Packers, the Chicago Bears, the Minnesota Vikings, and the Detroit Lions.
Oh, Vikings are cool. Well, maybe Packers.
Yeah, the Viking. This division may be one of the most historic divisions in the NFL. The Packers and the Bears. Packers are the all-time leaders in wins. The Packers are likely against past the Bears all-time wins. It does help that they're all been in the NFL for almost 100%. Else, like the first team that was the Chicago Cardinals, which we'll get to them when we get to the last division we'll cover. But the Bears are right there too when it came to the inaugural teams formed in 1923. And the Packers are not that far behind them. And it's the Bears and Packers are considered one of the biggest rivalries in the history of professional U.S. sports. Chicago is the big old town, while Green Bay is the small town that the only reason why anyone knows exists is because of the Packers.
All right, I like the underdog. I'm taking the Packers, and I'm putting the Bears for wild card.
The Packers are no longer considered the underdog. Historically, between the two teams, the Packers have won slightly more than the Bears. The Packers are considered the favorites of the division. They've won the division for the past couple of years, and they're always considered contenders in their conference.
Okay, well, I like that. Yeah, I'm definitely keeping them. Yeah.
And the Packers were only formed to help advertise the attacking company in Green Bay because back then, when in that era, the NFL was not really that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Or anything. I feel like I should also mention the Vikings are the most successful NFL team that have never won a Super Bowl.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, I'm still happy with my picks here. I'm glad that my gut instinct worked this time.
Yeah, for this division.
Yes. You know what? It's NFC. I've got to going all the way with the Packers.
Okay, and now we get to the NFC South.
All right.
Which has the New York Saints, the Carolina Panthers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Atlanta Falcons. And just like the South Division from the other conference, the South Division is the least accomplished, I would argue, out of all the divisions. Like the Falcons are 0-2 in Super Bowls. The Panthers are 0-2 in Super Bowls. The Buccaneers are 2-0 in Super Bowls. The Saints is 1-0 in Super Bowl. However, the Buccaneers, they won their second Super Bowl 2 years ago and still are considered one of the top teams in the NFL with Tom Brady as their quarterback.
Yeah, I'll go with the Buccaneers.
Love how you didn't ask about any of the others.
Yeah.
Okay, now we get to the NFC East, a division that's also recognized as one of the most historic, with the Washington Commanders, the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, and the New York Giants.
All right, tell me about the Cowboys.
Oh, the Cowboys
Are they good?
They're good against bad teams.
Awesome.
They don't do well against good teams. They are
Awesome.
for quite some time now. They are the teams that they'll do well in the regular season, but as soon as they go in the playoffs, they fall face flat.
So are the Cowboys the guys who decide who's the good and who's the bad, pretty much, in that case? Like they're the midway point of the pack?
Yeah, you can make that argument. Like the Cowboys, they trademarked the nickname America's Team. They gave themselves that name, and they many of their fans have that mindset. They are the most valuable team, sports franchise on the planet, according to Forbes.
Oh.
Yeah, and they've held that title for the past couple of years.
All right.
And yeah, they have one of the most, let's just say, invigorated fan bases in which every single year before the season starts, they will scream, "This is our year. The Cowboys will win the Super Bowl again. Oh, we have 5 rings." They haven't made it to a Super Bowl since before I was born, but they'll shout that they are.
Oh, okay. Well, I've never heard of the Commanders, so they're out.
But that's not their team, and there's a reason why you never heard of the Commanders, because this is their third name. The first name they had for nearly 80 years, but it's a name that people for a couple decades were constantly trying to get changed because it was seen as a racial slur by some. And
Was this like the Redskins people?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, and the only reason why it was changed is because the team wants to get the owner of the team wants to get a new stadium, and because everyone is now they made different proposals, but the people there's going to be a lot of sponsors and whatnot that would actually take part in donating for the funding of the new stadium. These sponsors all said that they would not fund anything unless the name was changed. So for 2 seasons, instead of having that name, we were known as the football team. Because Snyder was so upset of having to change the name that he just couldn't figure out the name he wanted. So yeah, it was just the Washington football team for 2 years, and then finally he's like, okay, Commanders.
Okay.
Including one of the members of the board of the team, he thought that people actually liked the football team as the name, and it nearly became the permanent name.
Football team. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely get started on that. Only people that like that name are the people that were like, oh, that's funny, that's stupid. Keep that name, that's funny.
Okay,
Yeah,
so aside from the Cowboys, how many of these teams suck?
The Giants are kind of likely to be one of the worst teams this season. The Commanders are unlikely to make the playoffs. Eagles could compete for the division with the Cowboys. They were a wild card team last year. And they, as I mentioned, got AJ Brown in a trade.
All right, I'll take the Eagles and follow with animal theming, and I think I'll put Cowboys for wild card.
Okay, that's fair enough. And finally, we got the AFC West, which has the Arizona Cardinals, which were the first NFL team officially in the Chicago Cardinals. This is the 49ers, the Seattle Seahawks, and the reigning Super Bowl champion LA Rams.
The Rams are the champions?
Yeah, they won the Super Bowl.
Oh.
And how they won the Super Bowl was using a method of invest everything into winning it right now and don't care about the future. As in, they've traded a bunch of draft picks to get different veteran players that have been proving that they could be pretty good, signed different contracts that make them probably be stuck in cap space because every team only has a certain amount of cap space that they can use to get players. That way, it's not only teams with the biggest money bags can actually compete. Different quarterbacks starting for them.
I'm just going to say that Prower told me a lot about players. I cut it out in the interest of time, but believe me, the man's an encyclopedia.
Well, maybe... Are the 49ers reasonable?
49ers made it to the conference championship game and narrowly lost to the Rams.
Okay, yeah.
So they were...
I'll go with the 49ers.
Interesting. They do have a different quarterback starting for them now, the Trey Lance, primarily because the quarterback they had last year, Jimmy Garoppolo, was seen at that point as a player that they were only having as a bridge quarterback, and they decided to a one-year deal that includes no trade clause or cut clause, so he's still there. It's the highest paid backup in the NFL. Overall, they didn't really lose any key players, and they will be a threat. Out of all the teams in that division, I would give them the best shot besides the Rams of winning that division.
Yeah, I'll go with
At
them.
least-
I'll go with them.
At least they have a chance of winning the division, unlike the Seahawks, who Broncos, and look like that they are not going to have a good year this year, but are planning on building towards the future.
Okay, yeah, I'll stick with the 49ers.
Okay, so we already established you have the Cowboys as a wild card. Who are going to be the other two wild cards in the NFC?
I picked the Packers for North. Maybe put the Bears as the wild card?
That'll be interesting.
Has someone that won the Super Bowl the previous year been a wild card the next year anytime?
Yeah, there's a term known as Super Bowl hangover, in which the teams have fallen. Usually it goes more towards the team that lost the Super Bowl, but often when a team wins a Super Bowl, blaming the players on, or even participants are more like, oh, I want a new deal or something. So and they get more money. And they often get torn apart by different teams taking those players, hoping that those teams will help them to Super Bowl. Other times, Super Bowl hangovers just, they are so much still thinking that we just won Super Bowl that when the season starts, they start slacking off. And they end up, and there's some cases that Super Bowl winning teams might not even make the playoffs the next year. It definitely doesn't look like the Rams would do that, but.
I'll wild card the Rams.
Okay. All right. So, the 14 teams you have going to the playoffs are the AFC North. You're going to have the Ravens win that, and I believe you have the Steelers as a wild card, right?
Yeah, or the Bengals. I can't remember which one I picked at the end.
Oh, no, you picked the Bengals.
Yeah.
And South, you have the Texans winning.
Yeah. At least it's not the Jaguars.
Yeah. The Texans still have a bunch of issues.
It's okay. They're not the Jaguars.
Yeah, but they're still the Texans. The AFC East, you have the Bills winning.
Yes.
AFC West, you have the Chiefs winning.
Yes.
And the other two wild cards, that you had the Dolphins.
Yep.
And you had, I believe you said the Broncos?
Yes.
Yeah, these are your numbers. In the NFC, you have the Packers winning the North. You
Yes.
have the Buccaneers winning the South. You have the Eagles winning the East. You have the 49ers winning the West.
Yes.
And the wild cards being the Bears, Cowboys, and Rams.
Yeah, I'm really rooting for for those picks for the NFC. I feel really good about those.
Yeah, those sound better than the AFC ones. Like, I personally think the Cardinals will get in over. The Cardinals will get in over the Bears, but we'll see.
Oh, okay.
Well, got that all recorded.
Yeah, I got that recorded.
Awesome.
Okay, I hope I got at least one of those right.
And that was pretty much the end of that. Those were my picks. I hope I get 50% right. I think that would be amazing. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching, and until next time, hope you have an absolutely